The battlefield of Zithron 4 was silent. The snow-covered plain stretched for miles, broken only by the dark skeletons of machines and the twisted bodies of soldiers who would never rise again. Smoke still rose from the ground in thin streams, a reminder that the war had ended only hours ago. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds, and the wind carried the bitter smell of burned metal and blood. Among the ruins lay a figure unlike the others. She was taller than a human, her skin pale silver, her armor cracked but still glowing faintly with alien energy. Her name was Commander Kaleth, once the most feared warlord of the Veiled Dominion. Entire star systems had fallen under her command. Enemies spoke her name in whispers, and even her own people trembled when she walked past. But now she lay broken in the snow. Her chest plate was pierced, her blood slowly freezing on the ice. Her body was alive only because of the strange technology inside her suit, a half-machine system that tried to keep her organs running. Still, her heart was weak, her mind fading. Betrayal had brought her here. Kaleth remembered the moment it happened. Her fleet had been strong, her army loyal, or so she had thought. But during the final battle, the Dominion Council had given secret orders. Her reinforcements never arrived. Her supply ships vanished. Her generals withdrew their support. She had been left to fight alone, her soldiers slaughtered around her. They had wanted her gone. They feared her power, feared that one day she would turn her armies against them. So they let the enemy destroy her, and here she was, abandoned, left for dead on a frozen world no one would care about. Her empire moved on, believing she was finished. Kaleth's golden eyes flickered weakly. She could feel the life slipping out of her veins. She thought about the counselors who betrayed her, about the soldiers who fled, about the empire she had built with her own hands. A bitter laugh rose in her throat but never came out. Perhaps this was how great warriors ended, not in glory but in silence, forgotten by their own people. She closed her eyes, waiting for death. Far away, another figure moved across the battlefield. His name was Marcus Hale, a human scavenger. He wore a patched suit with a cracked helmet, and he carried an old rifle strapped across his back. His boots crunched on the snow as he searched the wreckage looking for anything valuable. Metal scraps, energy cells, rations. Marcus had been a soldier once, long ago. But wars had taken too much from him, his friends, his family, his home. Now he lived by traveling from one battlefield to another, scavenging what others left behind. He had learned to survive in silence, keeping his head low, never drawing attention. To the great powers of the galaxy, humanity was a forgotten race, too weak to matter. But Marcus knew the truth. Humans survived where others perished because they never stopped trying. As he moved through the wreckage, his eyes caught something strange. A faint glow. At first he thought it was a dying machine, but as he stepped closer, his heart skipped a beat. It wasn't a machine, it was a body. Marcus froze. The figure lying in the snow was not human. Her armor looked advanced, alien, scarred from battle. Her face was strange but beautiful, with sharp features and markings across her skin. Her chest moved weakly as if she was still breathing. She's alive, Marcus whispered to himself. His first thought was to turn away. She was an enemy, maybe even a monster. He had heard stories about the Veiled Dominion, the way they conquered worlds, the way their warlords crushed resistance. If this was one of them, then she was dangerous even in this state. But something inside Marcus refused to leave her. She was dying alone, abandoned. He knew what that felt like. He remembered lying wounded on a battlefield years ago, calling for help, and no one came. Only luck had saved him. Looking at her now, he saw not a warlord or a conqueror. He saw a living being left behind just like him. Marcus knelt beside her. Her skin was cold to the touch, her pulse fading. The suit around her body hummed weakly, trying to repair her, but the power was almost gone. "Hey, can you hear me?" he asked softly. Kaleth's eyes flickered open for a moment. Golden light glowed faintly within them. She saw a human kneeling over her. A worthless scavenger, she thought. Her lips moved, forming words too weak to be heard. She wanted to curse him, to tell him to leave, but her voice failed. Her eyelids dropped again. Marcus felt panic rise inside him. He had no medical tools, no alien knowledge. He couldn't fix her armor or her systems, but he couldn't let her die, not like this. His hands trembled as he tried pressing the controls on her chest plate, but the alien language meant nothing to him. "What do I do?" he muttered, his breath fogging in the cold air. Her heartbeat was slowing. He could feel it through her chest. He remembered stories, old fairy tales humans used to tell children. Tales about princesses awakened by a kiss, about life returning when hope seemed lost. He almost laughed at the thought. This was no fairy tale. This was war, and she was an alien, but he had no other choice. Marcus leaned closer. His lips touched hers gently. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like fire rushing through dry wood, her systems roared to life. Lights flared across her armor. Her body jolted, and her eyes snapped open, glowing like molten gold. Kalith gasped, her lungs filling with air. She sat up suddenly, her claws shooting out and grabbing Marcus by the throat. The human fell backward into the snow, choking. Her voice came out raw and fierce, like a blade scraping metal. "Human, what have you done?" Marcus coughed, struggling to breathe. "I saved you." Her grip tightened. Her mind raced. This creature had dared to touch her, to awaken her. Shame and fury burned inside her chest. She should kill him instantly. And yet deep inside another feeling stirred, confusion. Why would a human, one of the weakest races, risk anything to help her? She studied him. His eyes held no fear, only determination. He did not flinch, even with death at his throat. Kalith's claws trembled. Slowly she released him. Marcus coughed again, clutching his neck, but he didn't run. He simply sat there in the snow, breathing hard. "Why?" she demanded. He looked at her, his voice calm despite the fear in his chest. "Because no one deserves to die alone. Not even you." For a long moment, Kalith said nothing. Her golden eyes stared into his. Then she turned her head toward the ruined battlefield. Smoke, silence, and death stretched in every direction. Her people had abandoned her. Her enemies had left her to rot. Only this fragile human had chosen to stay. For the first time in her life, Kalith did not know what to say. The wind howled across the plain, carrying away the last whispers of war. And in that frozen silence, a strange bond was born, between a broken warlord and a human scavenger who refused to walk away. The wind cut across the battlefield like knives of ice. Marcus sat on the ground, his chest rising and falling, trying to calm his breathing after nearly being strangled by the alien warlord he had just saved. His throat ached where her claws had pressed into his skin. Still, he did not run. Commander Kalith sat opposite him, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Her armor systems hummed weakly, pulling in energy from her own body to keep her alive. She was no longer dying, but she was far from strong. Her gaze lingered on Marcus with suspicion and confusion. "You are a fool, human," she said at last. Her voice was sharp, proud, and cold. "You should have let me die." Marcus gave a dry laugh, though his voice was rough. "Maybe, but I've never been good at doing what I'm supposed to." Kalith tilted her head slightly. His answer was strange, yet it stirred something inside her. No soldier of the Dominion would ever speak in such a way. They obeyed, they bowed, they submitted to power. But this human, he had acted without order, without logic, driven only by something she could not name. "Why?" she asked again, her tone quieter. "Why save me? I am your enemy. My people have burned human colonies. We have enslaved your kind." Marcus's eyes darkened, memories flashing in his mind. He had seen the aftermath of those burnings. He had walked through ruins where children's toys lay melted into ash. His jaw tightened. "I know what your people have done," he said softly. "But you are not your people. Right now you are just someone left to die, and I know what that feels like." Kalith studied him. There was no lie in his voice. His words were simple, yet they carried weight. She wanted to dismiss him, to sneer at his weakness, but something in her chest resisted. For reasons she could not understand, the human's defiance of logic unsettled her more than his touch had. They sat in silence for a while, the only sound the wind moving across the empty battlefield. Marcus pulled a ration bar from his pack and chewed on it slowly. He noticed Kalith watching with faint curiosity, though she tried to hide it. "You hungry?" he asked, holding out a second bar. Kalith frowned at the small brown object. "That is food?" "It keeps you alive," Marcus said with a shrug. She hesitated. Pride told her not to accept anything from him, but her body was weak, her systems drained. At last she reached out and took the ration with her clawed hand. She bit into it carefully. The taste was bland, almost bitter, but it gave her strength. "This is disgusting," she said flatly. Marcus grinned. "Welcome to the human diet." Her eyes narrowed, but for a moment the corner of her lips almost curved. Almost. Night began to fall. The sky darkened and the air grew colder. Marcus set up a small heater from his pack. its orange glow spreading warmth. Kalith sat beside it, her armor casting long shadows across the snow. Marcus broke the silence. "So and what happens now? You going to kill me when you're strong enough?" Kalith looked at him sharply. "Why do you not fear me? Do you not understand who I am?" "Oh, I understand," Marcus said. "You're Commander Kalith of the Veil Dominion. Warlord, conqueror, destroyer of worlds." He shrugged. "But right now you're just Kalith. And if you were going to kill me, you would have done it already." Her claws twitched. He was right, and that unsettled her even more. She had killed countless enemies without hesitation. Why not him? Why did his calm gaze freeze her hand? "You are arrogant," she muttered. "Maybe," Marcus said, "but I'm still here." For the first time in years, Kalith felt a strange sensation she could not name. It was not respect, not yet, but it was not hatred either. It was something in between, something dangerous. Hours passed. Kalith's systems repaired themselves slowly, but she knew it would take time before she could walk without aid. Marcus noticed her struggling to move and offered his arm. She glared at him but did not refuse. Together they moved through the ruins, searching for shelter. They found a half-destroyed bunker, its roof caved in but still standing. Marcus lit a small lamp and the two of them sat inside, the walls shielding them from the wind. Kalith broke the silence. "In my culture, weakness is death. If one cannot rise, they are left behind. That is the law of strength." Her golden eyes turned to Marcus. "Your kind must be weak if you waste energy saving those who cannot fight." Marcus leaned back against the wall. "Maybe. Or maybe we're strong because we don't leave each other behind. We keep going even when it doesn't make sense." Her gaze hardened. "That makes no sense." "Survival is all that matters," he met her eyes. "Then why are you alive right now?" "Because I broke that rule." Kalith had no answer. Her people had abandoned her. Her laws had left her to die. But this human's foolish defiance had brought her back. The thought gnawed at her mind. That night, Kalith dreamed. She saw the faces of the council who betrayed her, their smug eyes watching as her fleet crumbled. She saw the battlefield again, her soldiers falling one by one, their loyalty meaningless against the council's order. In the dream, she fell into darkness until a hand reached out and pulled her up. A human hand. She woke suddenly, her heart pounding. The human lay nearby, asleep against the wall, his rifle across his lap. She studied his face in the dim light. His features were rough, scarred, but steady. There was no fear there, even in sleep. Her claws twitched again. She could kill him easily now, and this confusion before it grew. But something stopped her. Something deep inside, a voice she had never heard before, whispered, "He chose you when no one else did." Kalith lay back down, closing her eyes, but sleep did not come. When morning came, Marcus was already awake, checking the skies with a small scanner. He frowned. "Trouble?" Kalith asked. "Patrol ship," he said. "Not human." "Probably yours." Her chest tightened. "If the Dominion found her like this, they would not rescue her. They would erase her. The Council could not allow her to live." Marcus saw the flicker of fear in her eyes. He understood. "They'll kill you if they find you, won't they?" Kalith's silence was answer enough. "Then we need to move," Marcus said. Kalith hesitated. She had never needed help from anyone, especially not a human. But her pride could not change the truth. Alone, she was doomed. "Very well," she said finally. "Lead the way." "Human." Marcus gave a small smile. "The name's Marcus." She repeated it softly as if testing the sound. "Marcus." It was the first time she had spoken his name. As they moved across the snow-covered wasteland, the bond between them grew stronger, though neither admitted it. She walked slower than him, her wounds dragging her down, but he never left her behind. He joked lightly, trying to ease the silence, and though she rarely responded, sometimes her eyes softened, and Kalith, who had once commanded armies and crushed worlds, found herself thinking a thought she never imagined. Perhaps weakness is not always death, perhaps weakness shared becomes strength. By the time the patrol ships passed overhead, Marcus and Kalith had already disappeared into the mountains, two unlikely companions bound by a kiss of defiance. The mountains of Zitharon I-4 rose like jagged teeth against the pale sky. Snow and ice covered everything, and the wind howled through the narrow passes. Marcus Hale led the way carefully, his boots crunching on the frozen path. Behind him, Kalith followed, her armor scratched and weak, but her eyes still burning like molten gold. They had been traveling for 2 days since the patrol ships passed overhead. Marcus had hoped they would avoid more trouble, but the scanner on his wrist told him otherwise. Drones were sweeping the skies, searching the valleys below. "They're hunting us," Marcus muttered, stopping at the mouth of a cave. Calith's eyes narrowed. "Not us, me. The council sent them to make sure I am finished. They fear I survived." Marcus turned to face her. "And what happens if they find you?" "They will erase me," Calith said coldly. "A blade to the throat, a blast to the chest. My name will be removed from history, and the Dominion will continue as if I never existed." Her voice was steady, but Marcus caught the flicker of something in her eyes. Anger, yes, but also pain. She was a warlord, a conqueror, yet her own people had abandoned her like trash. "Well," Marcus said, "if they want to erase you, they'll have to go through me first." Calith studied him. The words were foolish, even laughable. He was just one man with an old rifle, but the way he said it, the certainty in his voice, made her chest tighten. No soldier of the Dominion had ever spoken such words to her. Not her generals, not her captains, not even her so-called loyal soldiers. For a moment, Calith had no reply. She only nodded and stepped into the cave. The cave was deep, with walls of dark stone that kept out the wind. Marcus lit his lamp, and the warm glow spread across the rocky floor. They sat down, Calith leaning against the wall, her breath heavy. Her body was still healing, her wounds deep. "You should rest," Marcus said. "I do not rest," Calith replied. "Everyone rests," Marcus said, pulling out his blanket. "Even warlords." She gave him a sharp look, but he only smiled. Against her will, her lips almost curved again. Almost. She closed her eyes and allowed her body to relax, if only for a moment. That night, Calith's dreams returned. She saw the battlefield again, the flames, the betrayal, but this time she saw Marcus too, standing alone against the council, defying them with nothing but his stubborn will. She woke with a start, her chest tight, her claws digging into the stone. Marcus stirred awake at the sound. "Bad dreams?" Calith looked at him for a long moment before answering. "Dreams are for the weak." "I do not dream." Marcus raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. Instead, he handed her a ration bar. She took it without complaint this time. By morning, the drones had moved closer. Marcus could hear the hum of their engines outside the cave. He motioned for Calith to stay back and crawled to the entrance. 3 Dominion drones hovered in the sky, scanning the rocks with red beams of light. Their sleek black shells glinted against the snow. Marcus cursed under his breath. He knew his rifle wouldn't be enough against all 3. But before he could move, Calith rose to her feet. Her systems flickered, her armor glowing faintly. She stepped forward with a grim expression. "They are mine," she said. Marcus grabbed her arm. "You're still hurt. You'll get yourself killed." Calith looked down at his hand. He had touched her without fear again. She should have pulled away, but she didn't. "Then we fight together," she said quietly. Marcus nodded. The drones descended, their weapons glowing. Marcus aimed his rifle and fired, striking one drone in the eye. Sparks flew and it spiraled into the rocks below. Calith leaped forward, her claws slicing through the second drone with a burst of sparks and fire. The third drone swooped down, charging its weapon. Marcus dove aside, the blast striking the cave wall. Calith staggered, her systems warning of critical damage. Marcus rolled to his feet and fired again, hitting the drone in the wing. It spun wildly, crashing into the snow. Calith finished it with a strike of her claws, splitting it open. When the last drone fell silent, Marcus and Calith stood together, their breaths heavy, their bodies tired. "That was close," Marcus said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Calith's eyes glowed brighter than ever. "You fight with no fear," she said slowly. "Your weapons are weak, your body fragile, yet you stood against them without hesitation." Marcus shrugged. "That's what humans do. We stand, even when we shouldn't." Calith looked at him, and for the first time she felt something unfamiliar. Respect. But their victory was short-lived. A shadow fell across the snow. Marcus looked up and cursed. A Dominion dropship was descending from the clouds, its engines roaring. It had seen the battle. Reinforcements were coming. "We can't stay here," Marcus said. Calith's expression hardened. "No, they will not stop. More will come. This ends only if we face them." Marcus frowned. "You mean fight an entire dropship?" Her golden eyes burned. I mean survive. They fled deeper into the mountains, the sound of engines chasing them. The path grew narrow, forcing them to move side by side. At one point, Kalith stumbled, her wound slowing her down. Without hesitation, Marcus caught her, pulling her arm over his shoulder. She froze, unused to such closeness. Her armor brushed against his chest, and for a moment she could hear his heartbeat. Steady, strong human. Keep moving, Marcus said, his voice calm. Something inside her shifted. She had been carried by soldiers before, but always with duty, never with care. This was different. They reached a ridge overlooking a frozen valley. Below, the Dominion dropship landed and soldiers poured out, armored figures with black rifles moving like shadows across the snow. Kalith clenched her fists. These were her people, her soldiers. Yet they had come not to save her but to erase her. Marcus glanced at her. What do you want to do? Her jaw tightened. I want them to remember who I am. The battle was brutal. Marcus took cover behind rocks, firing carefully, while Kalith moved like a storm of silver and gold. Her claws tore through armor, her strikes precise and deadly. The Dominion soldiers shouted her name in shock. Some hesitated, others fled. But the council's order was clear. She had to die. One soldier raised his rifle at her back, but Marcus shot him before he could fire. Another tried to flank her, and Marcus tackled him to the ground. Together, human and warlord fought side by side, their movements strange but perfectly matched. When the last soldier fell, the valley was silent again. Smoke rose from the wreckage of the dropship. Kalith stood tall, her armor glowing brighter now, her golden eyes blazing with fury and pride. They thought I was finished, she said, her voice carrying across the snow. They thought they could erase me. She turned to Marcus. But with you I rise again. Marcus gave a tired smile. Guess that makes us both stubborn. Kalith looked at him for a long moment. The human had saved her, fought beside her, stood against her own people for her sake. She felt something dangerous stirring in her chest, something more powerful than anger, more confusing than pride. Perhaps, she thought, this human was not weak at all. Perhaps he was the strongest of them all. The valley was silent once more, but the cold did not comfort Kalith. Her golden eyes scanned the horizon, wary of any movement. The Dominion had underestimated her once, and she refused to let it happen again. Around her, the snow reflected the pale light of the twin moons, turning the battlefield into a ghostly mirror of the war she had survived. Marcus Hale knelt beside her, checking their supplies and scanning the valley below. His face was pale from exhaustion, but his eyes were sharp, alert. He had fought beside Kalith before, risking everything, and he was not about to stop now. They'll come back, he said quietly, almost to himself. Kalith's voice was low, steady, and filled with the quiet fury that had always defined her. They will. But this time they will not find me unprepared. Marcus glanced at her, noting the way her armor had begun to glow stronger now, her systems repairing themselves faster. Her body, once broken, was rebuilding with determination. She was awakening, not just physically, but mentally. Every battle, every breath, every challenge she had faced had led her here. Your people, Marcus said carefully, they tried to erase you. Will you forgive them? Kalith turned her gaze toward him. Her golden eyes seemed to burn deeper than before, reflecting the ice around them. Forgive them? She repeated, almost in disbelief. No, human. I will not forgive. I will rise. I will remind them what it means to fear me. I will take back what is mine. Marcus nodded. Then we make a plan. For the next few days, they moved through the mountains, finding shelter in hidden caves and abandoned outposts. Kalith's wounds slowly healed, aided by her suit's self-repair systems and Marcus's careful attention. Though she scowled whenever he cleaned her armor or applied a bandage, she did not resist as much as she once would have. Slowly, she began to understand the human beside her, not as a weak creature, but as something different, someone unpredictable, courageous, and clever in ways her people would have never imagined. One evening, as they rested on a ridge overlooking a frozen lake, Marcus turned to her. You know, humans are a lot like this ice, he said, tapping the frozen surface below. We might look fragile, easy to break, but give us time, give us pressure, and we can crush mountains. Kalith regarded him silently. Then she smiled, barely, but enough to show a flicker of warmth. I underestimated your kind. Most people do, Marcus replied with a shrug. For the first time, Kalith allowed herself to laugh, a soft sound that echoed against the mountains. It was strange and foreign, but it felt good, but rest was not to last. Drones returned, this time in larger numbers, scouting the valleys and peaks. Kalith and Marcus watched them from a distance, calculating. They could not fight them all head-on. Not yet. Kalith's mind worked quickly. Her hands moved over her suit controls, activating old war protocols stored in the ship systems that she had carried in her armor. Marcus watched, fascinated as she transformed from a broken survivor into a strategist once more. "They are fast," Marcus said, scanning the drone movements, "but not smart enough to predict what we do next." Kalith's claws flexed. "Then we give them a lesson they will not forget." The next encounter was brutal. The drones descended into the valley, their weapons glowing red. Marcus and Kalith had set traps, hidden explosives, and sharp ice barricades. They moved with speed and precision. Marcus fired carefully, aiming for drone sensors and engines, while Kalith struck with deadly force. Sparks flew as claws and missiles collided. Metal screeched under pressure, and the air filled with smoke and ice shards. At one point, Kalith was surrounded by 3 drones. Her suit alarms screamed, warning of energy overload, but she did not hesitate. She leapt into the air, spinning with grace and power, her claws slicing through the drones in a single fluid motion. Marcus ran beside her, shooting a drone from behind, and together they fell back, breathing hard, standing victorious amid the wreckage. Kalith's golden eyes burned brighter than ever. "You see, human, we are stronger together than they ever expected." Marcus smiled. "Yeah, I can see that." Their bond grew with every fight. Kalith began to trust Marcus, not just as a companion, but as someone who understood the fire that still burned within her. And Marcus saw her not as an enemy or a monster, but as someone broken and betrayed, someone who could rise from the ashes with his help. One night, as they camped in another cave, Kalith spoke softly, almost to herself. "I have never allowed anyone to stand by me willingly. Not my soldiers, not my generals, never anyone. But you," she looked at Marcus, "you chose to fight, to survive, to stay." Marcus shrugged, a small smile on his face. "Because no one deserves to die alone. Not even a warlord." Kalith's chest tightened. She did not answer, but her hand brushed against his briefly. A contact fleeting yet meaningful. The final test came sooner than expected. Dominion reinforcements arrived in force, landing on the frozen lake. Soldiers poured out, armored and armed with energy rifles. They had orders: Kalith must die. Marcus and Kalith watched them approach, hidden in the mountains. Kalith turned to him. "We fight." Side by side, Marcus nodded. Side by side. The battle was fierce. Kalith moved like a storm, her claws cutting through soldiers with precision, her suit energy flashing with every strike. Marcus moved beside her, using his rifle, traps, and clever tactics to disrupt their formations. Together they became a force neither side expected. The Dominion soldiers faltered, unsure how to fight a human who thought like a warrior, paired with a warlord who had been betrayed but refused to die. They had expected an easy kill. They had found a storm instead. Kalith's voice rang across the battlefield. "You thought I was finished. You thought the Veiled Dominion could erase me. You were wrong." Marcus ducked a blast, rolling behind Kalith. "And don't forget me," he shouted, firing at the advancing soldiers. Side by side, human and warlord carved through the enemy, unstoppable. Their bond became more than survival. It became a partnership, a shared strength. By the end of the battle, the snow was red and black with smoke and debris. The Dominion soldiers had either fled or fallen, and Kalith stood tall, her armor battered but glowing with renewed power. Marcus knelt beside her, exhausted but alive. She turned to him, her golden eyes softening. "You have awakened more than my body, human. You have awakened my will, my fire, my purpose." Marcus smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "Guess we make a good team." Kalith studied him for a long moment. "More than good," she said quietly. "Necessary." Her words hung in the icy air, carrying a weight neither of them could deny. They had survived because of each other, and in that survival something new was born. Respect, trust, and perhaps something even deeper. As they looked across the valley, Kalith realized the truth. Her empire had abandoned her, her council had betrayed her, and her soldiers had fled. But humans, this one human, had saved her. Not because it was his duty, not because of orders, but because he chose to. And that choice, that human choice, was more powerful than any army, more enduring than any law, more dangerous than any weapon. Kalith clenched her fists. The Council had underestimated her once. The galaxy would never make that mistake again. "Prepare yourself, Marcus," she said. "This is only the beginning. The Dominion will come for me, but next time, we strike first." Marcus nodded, a spark of excitement in his tired eyes. "Then let's make sure they regret it." Together they stood on the ridge looking at the frozen wasteland below. Two warriors from different worlds united by trust, fire, and survival. The battle was over for now, but the war, the real war, was just beginning. The twin moons of Zithron IV glowed pale against the sky, casting long shadows over the frozen battlefield. The wind had died down, leaving an eerie silence that stretched across the mountains. But silence was never real. It was the calm before a storm. Kalith stood on the ridge, her golden eyes scanning the horizon. Her armor, repaired and strengthened after days of travel and battle, glowed with renewed power. The snow beneath her boots reflected her determination. She was no longer the broken warlord abandoned by her people. She had risen. Beside her, Marcus Hale checked the scanners one last time. He had fought alongside Kalith through treacherous mountains, deadly drones, and Dominion patrols. He had witnessed her strength, her precision, and the fire that had never left her. And he knew. This battle would be their greatest yet. "They're coming," Marcus said, his voice low but steady. "The Dominion has sent everything they have. They want you dead." Kalith's eyes narrowed. "Let them come. They will find me stronger than ever." Marcus hesitated. "You know they won't hold back. Entire fleets, thousands of soldiers. This isn't a skirmish. It's an invasion." Kalith smiled, a sharp, confident grin. "Then we make it their last mistake." The Dominion forces approached across the frozen plains, a massive armada of warships and ground troops. The Council had grown desperate, fearing that Kalith's survival would inspire rebellion within their own ranks. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon had been ordered to erase her. Marcus looked at the scale of the enemy. He had fought humans and aliens before, but nothing like this. "This is insane." Kalith placed a hand on his shoulder. "Insanity is what my enemies always underestimate. They think we are weak. They are wrong." Together they moved to the valley below, where the frozen plains gave enough room for strategy. Kalith analyzed the terrain, recalling ancient battle tactics encoded in her armor. Marcus adjusted the positioning of traps, explosives, and improvised barricades. They worked in perfect coordination, each movement enhancing the other's strengths. "Ready?" Kalith asked. Marcus nodded. "Let's show them what humans and a warlord can do." The first wave of Dominion troops advanced. Soldiers poured from dropships, their weapons glowing red in the pale light. Kalith and Marcus waited until they were in the kill zone. Then Kalith leapt forward with precision, her claws flashing like lightning. She struck down soldiers with swift, deadly accuracy. Marcus fired from behind, taking out targets trying to flank them. The Dominion was unprepared for their tactics. Their soldiers expected fear, hesitation, and chaos. Instead, they found coordination, adaptability, and sheer audacity. A human and a warlord working together became an unstoppable storm. Kalith's voice rang across the battlefield. "You thought I was finished. You thought the Council could erase me. You were wrong," Marcus shouted, dodging a blast. "And don't forget me." They moved through the battlefield like a single entity. Marcus planted explosives that toppled enemy vehicles, while Kalith destroyed energy shields and command units with her claws and suit power. Every movement was precise, every attack deliberate. The Dominion fleet above was not idle. Ships fired energy beams that struck the snow, sending plumes of ice and debris into the air. Kalith leapt from one ridge to another, her armor absorbing the impact while Marcus rolled and fired at the descending soldiers. Together they dismantled the enemy advance, a dance of destruction that seemed impossible for two beings against thousands. At one point, Kalith faced a group of elite soldiers who moved faster and hit harder than the others. Marcus covered her flank, firing with deadly precision. She struck, missed, struck again, and finally, with a powerful leap and swipe of her claws, she incapacitated the last of them. Marcus moved to her side, breathing hard. "Are you okay?" Kalith's golden eyes gleamed. "Better than ever. They see now that I am not weak." Hours passed. The snow turned red, the air filled with smoke and debris. The Dominion soldiers began to retreat, but their commanders were determined. They sent reinforcements, faster ships, and deadly mechs. Kalith and Marcus stood firm, Marcus looked at her. We can't hold them forever. We need to end this now, Calith nodded. Then we strike at the heart. They moved toward the enemy flagship, a massive warship hovering above the valley. Calith's systems hacked into the ship's external controls, while Marcus planted explosives along weak points. The Dominion commanders had assumed no one could reach them. They were wrong. With one final signal, Calith activated the traps. Explosions ripped through the ship, disabling weapons and shields. Marcus fired into the command center, taking down the remaining guards. Together, they breached the bridge, and Calith confronted the Council's chosen commander. You thought you could erase me, she said, her claws at the enemy's throat. You were wrong. Humanity and we do not forgive, and we do not forget. The commander fell silent, realizing that this warlord, reborn and empowered, was no longer the one they could control. Calith spared him, leaving him to report her survival, a warning to the Dominion. As the battlefield fell silent, Marcus and Calith looked over the snow-covered plains. Thousands of soldiers had been defeated. The Dominion's plan to erase her had failed completely. The humans, the allies, and even the scattered resistance would hear the news soon. Marcus smiled at Calith. We did it. Calith turned to him, her golden eyes softening. We did more than survive. We proved something. What's that? He asked. That even the smallest choice, the choice to save someone, to fight when all seems lost, can change the galaxy, she said. Marcus nodded. That's humans, right? Calith's lips curved into a real smile for the first time in centuries. Yes, human. That is you. In the following days, Calith and Marcus worked to secure the region. She sent messages to scattered loyalists, rallying them. Her empire had thought her gone. Now they realized she was alive and stronger than ever. Calith's voice became legend. Across the frozen planets, the story spread. The warlord, abandoned by her people, awakened by a human's defiance, had returned. Her enemies trembled. Her allies were inspired. Humanity's name became a symbol of resilience, of unexpected power, of cunning and courage. Marcus walked beside her as they watched the sun rise over the snowy mountains. You're going to take back everything, aren't you? Calith's golden eyes glinted. Yes, and I will not walk alone. You saved me, Marcus. You showed me what it means to survive. Together we will rise, and the galaxy will remember the Veiled Dominion and humanity's role in it. Marcus smiled. I guess we make a pretty good team, huh? Calith chuckled softly. More than a team. Necessary. The galaxy was vast, full of danger, betrayal, and endless wars. But Calith had learned one truth. Strength was not just in power, nor fear, nor armies. Strength was in courage, loyalty, and choice. And humans, this fragile, underestimated race, had the kind of strength that could awaken even the broken. As they prepared to leave Zithron for, Calith looked at Marcus. Thank you, she said quietly. Marcus shrugged. Don't thank me. You woke yourself too. Calith smiled. Perhaps, but you helped me remember what it means to live, what it means to fight, what it means to rise again. The wind blew across the mountains, carrying snow and dust into the horizon. Calith and Marcus stood together, watching the dawn break over a galaxy that would never underestimate humans again. For Calith, the war had only just begun. But with Marcus beside her, she knew one thing. Nothing, not betrayal, not death, not the entire Dominion could stop them.